Welcome to the second day for all those who made it to the first one. Second day will be more interesting, I hope so. And today is the first session is about why we need the industry. We can do things on our own. Here, why we can say this, all three of us basically got raised by our EENA. So we are basically Red Cross, and under the David Star. So we all the same mindset and trying to help people. Doesn't matter if they're on the left or the right side or whatever affiliations there are. So maybe I start with introducing us. I'm Gregor, Jänin, original Austrian, but for the last couple of years always in the Balkans and further south. So that's my new area. Then we have Bernhard Wintersperger. He's head of the quality management system in the Styrian Red Cross. Styria is like the region right up from Slovenia. So for him it was a short trip in here. He will present his way, how he sees it, what they did on their own. On the other side, we have Chaim. Chaim is the head of the crisis management and working in the general directorate as building up the systems and also responsible for the funds. So he actually has the money and he knows exactly why he doesn't want to spend the money. So I think, Bernhard, we're going to start with your slides.
Perfect. Testing, 1, 2. Yes, that works. I wish everyone a wonderful morning. My name is Gregor, Bernhard Wintersperger. I work at the Austrian Red Cross and exactly in the Styrian branch. The Red Cross in Austria is parted in different branches, like every state has a different branch. So what do we do? The Styrian Red Cross is active in a lot of areas of activities. As you can see, there's a lot going on, and I myself work in the emergency medical services. What do we do there? We are the primary EMS provider for the state of Styria. We are mandated by the local government, and we also are operating the emergency control room. In the emergency control room, we receive the local emergency medical number, the 144. Just so you know, the 112 in Austria is routed to the police, and EMS and also fire services have different emergency numbers. But we are all interconnected, of course, so if someone calls 112 and telling them about a medical emergency, it will get routed to us. Also, we operate 1450. It's like the National Health Advisory hotline. That's going to be important for one of my examples. What I want to tell you today are 3 examples where we developed our own software. For each example, I want to talk about the challenges we had to solve, what our solution looked like, and then the reasons for developing it and things to note. Just some important things I did note when I wrote the presentation. And afterwards, of course, what are my conclusions about the stuff we did, and probably we can talk about it afterwards. The first example I want to talk about is a very special piece of software for our needs. It's an interface middleware, and those were the challenges. We were at the start of standardized call-taking scripts. So we have our CAT system and we have the standardized call-taking script system. And there were, of course, standard interfaces. So the call taker would start in the CAT system, would establish the location of the caller, and would then start the interview in the call taking script, would answer the questions there, and then the result would be transferred to the CAT system. But for some of the things we needed, we had compatibility issues. So some of the answers or some of the formats weren't exactly like we needed them for optimal operations on our side. So we had those special needs that we weren't able to solve with the standard interfaces. And so our solution to this was this custom middleware. And this middleware sits right in between those two systems, like the CAT system and the call-taking script system. And each of those systems talks to the middleware. So if the call taker want to start a new interview in the call taking, they talk to the middleware talks to the script system, and vice versa. And with this highly customized application, we were able to solve these problems. Like, okay, this format of that result of the call taking system wasn't right for us, so we change it in a middleware, or we need a special unit in a special region because it only exists there, then we manage it through the middleware. And one very good solution from our developers was that the middleware system is configurable through administrators. So if we want to change some of the things, we don't need to talk always to the developers, because our administrators can change it directly in a configuration tool. So what were the reasons? In this special case, we needed flexibility. We had a very specific problem that probably only occurs within our organization, because that's just the thing, how things are managed with our organization. And we weren't able to get a fitting solution out of the box. So there we made that solution tailored exactly to our needs. And then that was the main reason. It's a problem that only occurs within our organization, so we wanted just a solution for our problem. Some things to note. The solution of configurability through the administrators was a very good solution, because we can solve problems very quick. If something changes in the call-taking script system or something else, and we need to change something in the middleware, through that configuration tool, that's a very good solution that we don't need to talk to the developers, ask them to change it, we can do it ourselves. And also a thing to note, software maintenance. It runs for about 3 to 4 years now, and we get at that point that we need to maintain that software. Okay, there's a new software framework underneath, we need to implement it, and so on. So that's just a thing to note. If you write your own software, you need to maintain it, and you need to make sure you have the resources for it. The next example are COVID-19 tests. Why was this a challenge for us? Because the Austrian Red Cross in the Styrian branch was tasked with the management of the sampling of all officially ordered COVID-19 tests in the state of Styria. And there were a lot of them. We also, that's where we get to 1450 again, in all of Austria, 1450, this health advisory hotline, was tasked as primary hotline for all suspected COVID-19 tests. So we had to implement a triage system there if it was a suspected case or not. If it was a case, then we had to make sure this person would get tested, and the sample of the test would get sent to the lab, and also the data from that person will get to the authorities and also to the lab. And therefore, we had to manage all of that. We had to manage logistics, lab samples, the data transfer, all of this stuff. And as I said, there were a lot of them. Not sure if it's readable up there, but overall, it was about 800,000 COVID-19 tests until March of this year. And we peaked at about 5,000 test orders per day. That was our peak there. So what was our solution? We did a combination there. We used our tried and tested CAD system as primary system, where all the cases were created and where we managed them. And we added on our CAD system this custom-based web software, where there were forms and also tracking of the samples. On the logistics side, we did mobile web apps where the crews that were taking the samples could say, yeah, okay, that's I'm there, and this is the sample barcode and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and also the logistics side. So we did a combined solution there. What were our reasons? In this case, time. It was COVID. Nobody knew what was going on. Everything was new. So we needed something really fast. And that was the primary reason why we did it on our own. we needed it yesterday, and nobody knew what was going on. And that's the second reason. We had a constant change of circumstances in the first month. Everything was new. The definition of a suspect case was changing every few months, and so on. So we needed to constantly change and adapt our software to the new needs, and therefore we needed custom solution. I don't think it would have been possible with vendors, because our developers worked nearly full time on those changes. So that was really the reason. What are the things to note? Documentation, we all love it. It wasn't there, obviously. But a few months in, and it's going on for 2 years now, hopefully coming to an end, it's going to get important sooner than later. Okay, what did we define a few months back? How does this work? Yeah, I don't remember. Just a thing to note, in some way or other, you should need to document your stuff. And also a very important point, because there were so many stakeholders involved in this pandemic situation. And a big part that I did in this situation was this translation process between the needs of the stakeholders and the developers. Usually didn't went well when they talked directly to each other. So you need someone or some kind of translation system to let the developers know what the stakeholders' needs are. And the last example I have with me is a refugee welcome center. We had a very specific challenge there as Red Cross. We needed to create a software for managing this refugee welcome center. What you can see there behind me is the complete process a refugee would go through in this center. It was a really good process. But the challenge there, we had a lead time of 3 weeks. It was the Ukraine crisis, the start of it. Everybody knew, okay, people are gonna come, we need to manage it, and we need to do things like registration. It was still COVID-19 big topic, so we needed to test these people, and also administration of sleeping rooms where they could sleep a night or two until they got permanent housing solutions. What did we do? We created a system for the people with barcode wristbands and barcode scanners, so we know who everybody was. And then we created a custom web application based on a low-code framework. That also enabled us to create things like you can see there, live data visualization. It was great. Everybody else of the other organizations in there, the police came regularly and said, okay, how many people have we in here? What's the status? We had the data because we were able to track them and to document every step we did within this welcome center. Reasons, obviously also in this case, time. 3 weeks from now, you know, in 3 weeks you have to start the thing. You have to talk to all the other stakeholders, to all the other organizations. Whatever you define today, tomorrow, you know, at the start of this thing, it's gonna gonna throw overboard because it won't be accurate anymore. So we needed also flexibility, time, and a custom solution for our custom problem. Yeah, and also this flexibility to make it right and to solve it in a very short time. The things to note there is the low-code framework. There are now a lot of low-code frameworks out there, and I want to encourage everybody to try them. They're a great way for making something like this possible, because in our case, we had one developer with no prior experience with this chosen framework, and he was able to do it within 3 weeks. So that was really a great solution for us, and it was by chance. I discovered this framework a few weeks before we started with, and took a mental note. So okay, I should probably look that up at a later time for some internal tools or something, and then came this, and it worked perfectly. So what are my conclusions? Pros of developing your own software. Yes, you are flexible. You can do whatever you want. Speed, if you have the resources, if there are small projects you want to develop on your own, you probably get that speed bonus if you need it. Cons, also flexibility, because you need to define everything. That's the big thing. Often when you go to vendors and you say, okay, I have a problem, can you offer me a solution? You already get a solution because someone has thought through it and says, okay, yeah, that's our solution. We have another customer with a similar problem. This is how we solve it. If you do it on your own, you have to do all those steps on your own, usually. And also something similar to this, you have to manage all aspects. Like I said, you have to make sure there are requirements so the developers know what to develop. You have to deploy that software. You have to make sure it's stable. You have to make sure there's maintenance afterwards. And all these things, you have to think about it, you have to care about it, and you need to allocate resources to all these problems. And what are pitfalls where it's really getting nasty usually? And that's exactly those translation parts. We did it sometimes because it was so time critical during COVID, and it always went nasty when all those stakeholders directly talked to the developers and said, okay, we need this, and the developer asked, okay, what are those specifics, those. They're talking in two different worlds. So you need someone translating between those two to make sure the stakeholders' needs are understood and put into proper requirements a developer can utilize and develop software of. And so with this, I say thank you from my side. And
well, thanks, Bernhard. And it seems he knows what he's doing, because we did say we deliver on time, we are faster with this own development and choosing companies. And you had been faster. You had 1 minute's time still. But we're going to go still on to Chaim and have the questions and after the discussions laid down.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure being here. I started my career as a volunteer in Magen David Adom, and amazingly, our stories would be very similar, Bernhard, I have to say. I don't think Gary chose us because of that, but it looks like we have very similar stories. I would bring you back to a year called 1988. Some of you were not even born, I think. Back then, I started my career as a dispatcher in Magen David Adom. And back then, in 1988, we had paper pen, and we got to the point that we were having different colors of pens. Like, I think we had the top where was when we had 8 or 10 of them. And different stations have different colors, and every time you were about to write something on your dispatch log, you had to remember which station this ambulance is coming from to use the right color. And of course, we got confused when we were stressed, and it was a lot of fun looking into the dispatch logs with overwritten text in different colors. And I think that was the point where we said, okay, we need to change. And I was privileged to be a part of the operations division. I just moved in when we developed our first version, and I'm here to tell you the trajectory of Magen David Adom in developing its command and control system. Gary, I think our presentations will be on the website, isn't it? Yeah. So for all those of you who are interested, thank you. You can take pictures, of course, but it will be on the website. Magen David Adom, very similar to the Austrian Red Cross. We are the National Society, part of the international movement of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. And for those of you who don't know it, Magen David is the Star of David, and Adom is red, so we are the Red Star of David, and we are tasked as the national EMS provider for the state of Israel. We like a lot the word national, just be advised, we are 10 million people. So we provide services roughly to the same population as the London Ambulance Service. And my colleagues in Manila are always laughing when we say we are national. compared to Manila. We are also the blood services for the State of Israel, and as any other Red Cross society, we are auxiliary to our authorities in case of emergencies, and that would be part of my COVID story, and how comes an EMS service, a Red Cross service, is doing testing and sampling, really, of people. So I already spoke about who are we. I'm going to talk about our trajectory in the command control system, what is the current system, and what have we learned. So you can see here our history starting 1930, before the state emerged, from a very small branch-based organization to a national organization in the national framework. 1997, our first version of CAD. In 2001, it became a real control and command center in a national perspective. And in 2007, we set up our national command control system, and you will see all of it in a second. This was our first version. And basically, it was the same paper sheet. I think everyone can recognize, even though it's in Hebrew, that this is an Excel sheet. And basically what happened in 1996, roughly, was that the kids, the young dispatchers, came to us and said, why are we writing on papers? We can do the same on a computer screen. So we took a very young, unprofessional developer, and he just translated whatever we are doing on paper to an Excel sheet. And the idea was that every time you click on a box, there will be a timestamp there to mention what you have done. That's it. That was the first command and control system. I can tell you that back then we didn't trust the system to the level that every time we provided an input to the system, it would print. We had a printer running in parallel, and every time you clicked, there was a you know, the old printers, because it was printing the line. Because in case it crashes, we can restore the information. And basically, the evolution was that the people, when they got used to, and I'm not going to tell you the whole story about dispatchers will never use the system, they are not used to computers, we get over that. And they would come and say, okay, we already have the computer, so why the computer is not doing this and is not going that? And at the national level, the major issue was that it was a standalone system, which means every dispatch had its own server that stored the data, and there was a process at night that all the data will be transferred from the local server to the national server, of course, with a lot of issues, and every second morning you would wake up and everyone is stressed because it did not back up last night, and what would we do? And that was the second version of the system, where we went one step further and we implemented GPS on our ambulances, and for the first time we could see real time where the ambulance is, where the task is a GIS system, and what is the status of the resources. Of course, you see our old radio system, but I want to point out to the other screen that you have there, and that was the pager system. Because we had an issue that when we needed to call, to send the pager, we had to call the company and give them the message, and of course wait online. And after several critical incidents where pagers were delayed, we agreed with the company that we will have a terminal on our system, in our stations, where we can directly link to their computer and send the messages, but it was a separated system, and we had different systems like that. So we had our main system, but then we had systems that are related to other vendors that provide us with services, and we were able to log to their systems, but not under one framework, and I will talk about it in a second. And this is what we have today, and you will see a video in a second. And for us, everything is one system. So We don't have the challenge of middlewares because it's in one system. It's the call taker screen with the capacity to receive images and videos. In Israel, unfortunately, because of a legislation issue, we cannot receive directly location of a cellular phone. We are using WhatsApp. So from the system, we send a WhatsApp message to the caller, ask the caller to share location, and it would immediately create the entity on our system. If WhatsApp is not working, we can send a text message to the person. Then the system automatically will identify, according to the priority assigned by the call taker, the system will identify all the resources that are available based on their proximity to the call and the type of assistance. We have basic life support, advanced life support, and motorcycles and volunteers that would respond. Some of the resources, like volunteers, then 5 closest volunteers that are first responders are dispatched automatically. If it's a life-threatening situation, resources, ambulances are dispatched automatically. If not, the system would advise the dispatcher what is the most appropriate resource, and the dispatcher will have to approve that. And the last one are the cameras on our dashboard ambulances, and we can see every time a monitor is connected to a patient within Magen David Adom, basic life support or advanced life support, medical control will see parameters real time. The newest advance is that in Israel we don't have a 112 system. Our 911 calls go to the police, but we transfer the data electronically between the fire department, police, and us. So we don't have to call them anymore. We just send them, as we call it, the job, and they acknowledge that they have received it, and vice versa when it's needed. Can we see the video, please? Colleagues in the control room?
שלום, רק אני אודיו. אחת, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
This is our This is medical control. They see real-time data of the patient. And we transfer the information directly to the ICU. These are the doctors at the ICU receiving the data. So this is how the system looks like today. And you can see our community first responders, where we see them where they are to provide rapid response. This is our vehicle application, which is part of the system. And this is the mobile application that our volunteers and staff are using to receive the information. And the last one, it's an example from the airport, emergency landings, is for the managers. And I have to say, it comes from bad doing of us as bosses. And you know what's chaos? Chief has arrived on scene. And as a chief, I can say that. One of the problems we had in large incidents is that every one of us picks up the phone, calls the dispatchers, give me a seat rep. And when they finish with the seat rep, you would say, but I'm standing next to another boss, and he has other figures. Yes, because he called 3 or she called 3 minutes ago, and I have now updated data, and the poor dispatchers, instead of doing their job, were busy providing information. So today, all they have to say is, sir, with all due respect, it's in your app. Whatever I see on my screens is in your app. So please, let me do my work. And the data you need, it's there. And this is the app that we use to contact with the hospitals to allow the physician in the ICU to receive the data and decide if she or he wants the patient in the ICU before we arrive there, and we save a lot of time. This is the public app that people use, and our smart AEDs. Every time someone opens the locker, we will see a message on our screen. We can open the stand from the command and control system, and when there is a CPR situation nearby one of these posts, we activate the red light and alarm there to call the notice of the attention of the people that are around it, so maybe one will approach and take the defibrillator to the resuscitation. And this is our COVID response, where we had to transfer patients, so we developed a monitoring system for them. And again, we were tasked, like the Austrian Red Cross, we're doing sampling. And we had to develop very fast a system to receive the call for the sampling, put the job, put it in a quake, geographically locate it to the people, and of course track the test until it arrives to the laboratory. So you see the process. The important thing is that for our second version, we had a contract. We had a contract with a vendor. And I have to say that it was a nightmare. Technologically, it was the best. Really, they are a very high-level company with a lot of professional people. But every time we had a talk with them, the first sentence was, it is not in the specs. It's not in the specs, so it's not in the contract, so it's going to cost you a lot of money. Secondly, the second answer is, it is not in our work plan, which means we don't have the human resource for you. So since they are planning their work in quarters, it's okay. We agreed on the price. It will be in the next quarter. So if I came on March 10th to ask for something, possibly in June, we will start working on that. So what we decided is that we need professional developers. It's not our developers. Sorry, we cannot keep track of emergency medicine advances and IT advances. So we will have a contract with the same company, by the way. But the developers will be in-house consultants. So they are professional developers, but their line manager is an MDA person. He is the one doing the translation between the user needs. And by the way, Bernhard didn't mention, you know what it is for a developer when he receives requirements from 4 different stakeholders and everyone is contradicting the other? That's one of the issues in an organization. So at the end of the day, there is a high-level manager from Magen David Adom who has, first of all, the internal power to say, okay, I heard you, but these are the specs and the others are not. This is the priority, and he is the one who is organizing the work of the developers. And for us, this is the model which is working very well, especially when it comes to agility, priorities, and doing the work that we need on time, and sometimes saying, okay, this is more urgent. You know, we live in organizations that important is a nice thing. The only thing that matters is urgency. So you need to wake up in the morning and say, this is more urgent than the others, and this is exactly what happened in COVID. Drop everything. It's okay, we don't have a contract with anyone, we don't have milestones, we don't have deadlines, just drop everything, and all of you work on this. And when I'm saying all of you, we have around 30 to 40 developers working, and in COVID it was all of you are doing this. Why? Because we need it yesterday. So, what have we learned? First of all, it is not in the specs around costs and time. I already mentioned integration of external technologies. One of our greatest challenges. Our new development that I'm extremely proud to tell you about it is that we have now an AI system integrated into our call taking, which does two things. First of all, it gives a transcript real time of the call. So the call taker can follow up on his screen or her screen what has been said in this conversation. So I don't have to ask, sorry, I don't remember, what did you say? It's on my screen. And if I think the person is talking gibberish, I would see the gibberish. And sometimes understanding gibberish is part of our job. And the other thing, it allows us to to do a chat with translation to other languages. In Israel, you speak English, you speak Hebrew, many of us speak Arabic and Russian, but we have Amharic, we have Tigray, which is another language from Ethiopia, which is not Amharic. We have different Chinese dialects, etc., etc., etc. The person can text on their own phone, in their own language. We would see it in Hebrew, we reply in Hebrew, and they see it on their phone in their own language. It's Google Translate, so it's far from being perfect, but it's way more effective than anything else. The problem is that when you are working with a technology company, sometimes it is not in their interest to integrate such a technology into the system. It took us a lot of time to realize why. Because they have a partner company, or sometimes in-house, they are developing the same thing, and they just don't want you to use others. In our case, it's our decision. Of course, the understanding the needs and shortening the feedback loop, agility already mentioned, and the need to adapt to an ever-changing world. Just please remember the gap between dreams and reality. We like to dream very big, and then comes the bad guy who is the middleware between the IT part and the operations part and tell us, guys, this cannot be achieved. Technology is not mature enough, it will cost us too much, or other reasons. My boss, the Director General, has a sentence he likes a lot. It's not urgent at all, it could have been done yesterday. In development, it is not always possible. Developers, I don't know why, they want to test their products. They want to make sure it works. And then they say, we have too many bugs, we have to fix them. And we in the operations side are like, it should have been working 3 days ago. And it's a learning process from both sides, from the developer side, how operational organizations work, but also from the operational people, to understand that we have limitations in the developing process. We have very different cultures. IT people have their own way of working, especially when they are coming from an IT company, and taking a 2 hours break for lunch is okay. I can understand why, and you're in the middle of COVID, and they're taking their lunch break, and you're like, ah! It's a different culture. How do we keep our developers up to the standard, to the technological standard, while they are not working in a technological company all the time? We're investing a lot of money in their ongoing training, because otherwise they will be doing C++. And even I know that C++ is not used anymore. And the last thing is that they are great guys, but documentation, it's in their heads. And we need to make sure that whatever is in their heads becomes institutionalized, because they're IT people. They come and go. And by the way, we have some IT people that left us and came back because they said, okay, you're way more interesting than others. But when they leave, they take their knowledge with them. And it's something that we cannot afford. So thank you very much.
Good. Well, as you already did see, we're one community. So one is faster, the other one is a little bit slower, but we're all together at the end, reaching our target. You also did see the approach was quite different. So one has a full package where the vendors can learn something. The other one is basically complementing existing systems. First, I would like to go to the questions. So everyone has a fresh memory about what has been said, and so I will not take away any of your questions. Anyone for Bernhard or Chaim? Just go ahead. We have one here.
So I am a volunteer and former American Red Cross employee, and something that we have always struggled with was interoperability with other agencies to share information. Can you talk a little bit about how you overcame that, and then also interoperability with other Red Cross, Red Crescent organizations in major disasters?
The issue with other agencies, to be very honest, is not technological, it's about ego. Let's be very honest. From the moment we decided we are going to share information, it took us 3 months, and the system is on and working. It took us more than 10 years to get to the point that we agree. And the real reason why we agreed is because our lawmakers, without understanding anything, decided that we are going to have a 911 center in Israel, where we are going to put police, which belongs to one department in the government, fire departments who belong to another department in the government, and Magen David Adom, which is outside of the governmental system, into one room, and thinking that by putting us into one room, we will work better together, which is the opposite. So that pushed our leaders to say, okay, we have a threat, we need to show them that we can work together, so let's now overcome issues of privacy, of information, which is okay. So for me, it's about having the motivation to do that, understanding that we are not sharing everything. At the end of the day, what I need to share with others is location, type of emergency, and needs. Personal data doesn't have to be shared. I'm not interested in the criminal record of the patient. I'm interested, yes, if in the police files there is a record about domestic violence or other types of violence in that address. And they can share it with me just as a warning note without telling me who is involved. I don't care who is involved. So that was the easy part. The problem part is that why am I going to share?
Yeah, I can also, is it on? Yeah, I can also second that opinion. Regarding your question, how we solved it, we didn't. That's the honest answer. There are still ongoing struggles regarding sharing information. And in the worst case, it always comes down to the phone call to the other organization. We're working on it within Austria. We hope for a legislative solution. There is someone in the ministry saying, okay, we have to do it. Then there's probably going to be a solution within a few months. I'm pretty sure of it, because technically it's not the challenge. But as Chaim said, yeah, it's convincing the others to share infos. Yeah. That's a whole different rabbit hole, to be honest. this international aspects of Red Cross incidents. There is a system in place, often going through the highest station within a country and then over the Red Cross stations in Geneva and so on. So there is a system in place for managing those international incidents, but that's a whole different speciality within the Red Cross, yeah.
I strongly advise you look for the Go platform of the Red Cross. This is the platform. Everything is there. The only thing that the Red Cross, because of its structure, has particular is that information has to be vetted. Yeah. So I cannot have a volunteer in a branch somewhere posting something that becomes the official international information of the National Society before some people in the system have approved that this is for free.
Any more questions? Yeah, here in the middle.
Hi, I'm Axel. I represent the vendor Eulerfunk. We heard a little bit about requirements and a little bit about the development process, but what I'm missing is a few on quality assurance. And how do you gain the trust in your own solution? So how do you do quality assurance? How much effort did you spend on it? And how is it actually working out for you?
It depends. For our examples, there were small solutions to rather small problems. And there we were able to test it ourselves. So it wasn't that big system with a lot of functionality where you need to test everything. Those functions we need on a daily basis. We test it, we know they work, and that's our quality assurance. Yeah, I know there's a lot of other stuff behind that, but that's how we approached it. On like COVID system, it was not there. You put it out there, someone tells you there's a bug, something doesn't work, okay, you go and fix it, because there were this enormous time pressures. But on the other, our solutions, there were small solutions, and we tested it ourselves.
There are two different aspects of quality assurance. One is what we call the quality assurance, the technical quality assurance. And that's the IT part, which means they would issue at the beginning every day and then in a periodic time, how many times the system crashed, how many times we had delays in the system. That's a very technical part, which I have to say is the easiest part, because you go to the logs of the system and it would pop up. The problem is what we call the user satisfaction part. And we have a permanent group of users, the real users, the teams in the ambulances, the call takers, the dispatchers, who sit normally every month to discuss issues around the system. And then you have all the nitty-gritty pieces of this font is too large, this font is too small, you put me this information on the lower part of the screen, I just don't see it because the phone is blocking it, things like that. And of course, we are systems where people are not afraid to voice their concerns. So wherever there is a problem in the system, our national dispatch that you saw that is controlling everything will receive a phone call saying, look, there is something wrong going on. And that, of course, goes to the attention of the IT people the same moment.
So to summarize, for both of you, the key to success was to have a very, very short loop between developers and end users, basically.
Of course.
Yeah, I would agree with that, yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah, we're going to have the second row.
These solutions you have developed, have you been able to share them with any other agencies? Are people interested in buying from you or taking things for free from you?
Just to give you an example, the fire department CAD system is ours. So we sold it to the fire department in Israel. They decided that it's easier and cheaper for them than using other vendors.
With our systems, not so much, because they are specific to our needs. So until now, we did not have any requests from somebody else. But probably we would share it if some other organization within Austria or the Red Cross would need something, we probably would share it. But yeah, then you have to think about their requirements and work it into, and then you're a software development company, which we're not. So that's a big hurdle there, and so we probably would share it, but realistically as is. And there you have it. Take it, do it yourself. But we are not a software company.
We were different. We had to put operational people from our side to sit with the operational people of the fire department to understand their procedures and adjust and talk to our developers to adjust the system to the needs of the fire department. For example, they have the alarm system, first alarm, second alarm, that with fixed resources, which is something that we don't have. So we have to change the methodology behind the dispatch to adjust that.
Anyone else? Yeah, what, up there?
I have a very specific question about the thing that you said about the WhatsApp. When you send, do you send a link for the video? Did you talk to WhatsApp about it? Because WhatsApp is very particular in allowing emergency calls and whatnot through WhatsApp.
I'm not aware about the discussion, but it's agreed with WhatsApp. We send two different things. We send a request to the person to share location. That's one thing. The same way that you would do with me on our cellulars, it's with the system. The video, I don't think it's shared through WhatsApp.
Okay, so it's just about the location.
It's
Because
about
we
the
have
location.
developed a chatbot, so we can chat with our users through WhatsApp or Facebook, Telegram, whatever. And we are currently having internal discussions every now and then because WhatsApp is very particular about allowing emergency calls and everything that goes with it through WhatsApp, and we're scared that they're going to shut us down. But you had the conversation with WhatsApp.
Yeah,
And-
and
okay.
again, the call is the call. We are not doing the emergency call.
Yeah, but even
Through
the
WhatsApp?
sending the location for the emergency, WhatsApp is scared that if WhatsApp is down again for 2 days, they're going to be the one in trouble. That's basically their message.
This is why we have other options,
Yeah.
which are not.
Yeah, but I was
WhatsApp.
just interested to know because that's a way that we can take. Thank you.
Sounds like an interesting issue maybe for next year. So we're picking that up. Gary, you have something to that topic? But be fast, because you know the time is running.
So on the Facebook side, Meta side, the owner of WhatsApp, I mean, I think you could proceed without asking them, because if you ask them, you put them in trouble. Basically, I mean, then they have all the liability and so on. Whereas if you use it, how can they prevent the user to send their location and to send a picture? And I think even if you ask the staff at Meta to agree to it, it's going to be probably very complicated. And yes, I agree. It's a topic we raised already some years ago and we'll probably bring back.
But it's, again, that's a nice input. They can do it. If you as company, if your company produce a product interfacing with WhatsApp and they don't ask them, then they're in big trouble. And which also brings me one more thing. Why did you come up with the idea to fully develop it and not buying from a vendor? Did you also have some security or some problems? Because I know that Israel is always quite critical on...
The companies have higher security levels than we do because they are developing also products for the different defense agencies. That's not the issue. The main problem is that, especially when it comes, and I didn't speak about the link of our command and control system to other systems in the organization. For example, our timesheets for the personnel in the ambulances comes from our CAD. Because the moment they punch into the command and control system, this is the moment that they are on the HR system as on duty. And when you come to a company which are CAD and you say, but I want some logistics, I want HR, they would say, that's a problem. We need to liaise with others. So we said, okay, we want one system that will cover as many aspects of running the operations in our organization, and the best solution is okay, I bring the different vendors if I need them, because our HR system, for example, is an external one. But the integration with our CAD is done by us. And that's easy because we don't have competition between IT companies.
So, as you see, so the industry, don't be scared. You will still selling products. They're not getting in your footsteps. And best thing is, the two of us, we soon go in pension. So when we go, also the knowledge will go, and then you can sell your products again. With Bernhard, it's a little bit more complicated, but his products are outdated because he made something for COVID, and you're not going to resell it, hopefully not.
No,
Jaron,
I hope not.
I just want to make one comment because it came out because of the different cyber attacks that were on different health structures in Europe over the last 2 years. A vulnerability that I want to share with you is that we are constantly upgrading our IT security for the new products. We are not updating our IT security for the old systems, which are back there at the backbone of the system. And this is where the vulnerability is, because we have products with IT security protocols that are 10, 15 years old and have never been touched since.
Well, yeah, important input. Good. So I have to close because we're already late. Even I don't care because I'm staying on this seat still. For those which want to move on, in the Gallows Hall is now the implementing real-time text in the framework of the European Accessibility Act. In the Linhardt Hall is the diversification on public warning channels. Steve Todd has the industry session. And here we'll talk about interactive voice response and why to use it and how to use it. So many thanks for everyone. Many thanks to Chaim and Bernhard. And hope to see you soon.